To Ireland has increased significantly, mostly from third world countries, leading to widespread discontent and protest among Irish citizens. A more sustainable immigration policy has been promised, but what does this mean? What would it look like? And is it what the Irish people want? I'm here with Fatima Gunning, journalist with Gript Media. Welcome.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me again.
So can you tell us what prompted this shift that is towards a more sustainable immigration policy in Ireland?
Well, I think the word sustainability is perhaps questionable. The government just introduced a white paper where they're going to end. We have a system, I guess maybe you have the same thing in Sweden, called direct provision, where if somebody comes in and claims that they're seeking asylum, the government then essentially provides them with accommodation, food, just kind of their basic needs. And they also get an allowance of around, I think it's like €39 per week for adults. So they've long been saying that they want to end this direct provision. So these kind of things where they're just lumping these people into centres and providing the food and whatnot. And they want to actually give them what they're referring to as turnkey accommodation, like their own apartment or whatever. Like they don't want them to be. So right now there's these huge hubs for asylum seekers where they're essentially crammed into sometimes big halls with these like little cubicle things kind of erected around them. You know, could I compare it to like a battery farm? Maybe they're not exactly ideal or humane conditions, but the government is, instead of what I think the Irish people want, 75% of the Irish people, as I said previously, said that they feel the government has taken in at this stage too many asylum seekers and refugees. So instead of limiting numbers like we've seen places like Denmark do, our government is not addressing the sustainability of the numbers. They're rather moving to create more reception centres and to acquire more accommodation for the thousands of people coming in. Now, figures released just yesterday show that there's been a 72% increase in the number of asylum seekers coming in the first 3 months of this year compared to the same period last year. So despite the government having quite recently in the last few months said that they're now no longer in a position to provide state accommodation for single males. In fact, we have over 1,000 single male asylum seekers that have been not refused, it's simply not there. Have not been provided with state accommodation, and like many of them are living in tents on the street. So despite the government saying, look, lads, we don't have anywhere for you, like we've promised you X, Y, and Z, but we don't have it for you. Instead of that message reducing the numbers of asylum seekers coming in, we have had 5,163 new asylum applications made so far this year, and the vast majority of those, the majority, the biggest number of those are from Nigeria. So there's 1,668 Nigerian people having come in since the start of the year claiming asylum. And now I don't think Nigeria is at war at the moment. There is a large possibility that a lot of those people, maybe most of them, maybe not most of them, who knows, their asylum claims have to be processed, I suppose. But I think you wouldn't be too far out at guessing that a large proportion of those may well be economic migrants. We've also had people coming in from Pakistan, from Afghanistan, from Somalia, places that, while they may not exactly be particularly stable or it may not be great to live there, they're not currently active conflict zones.
And when they say a more sustainable immigration policy, what are the Irish people expecting from that? Do they feel that they see a change?
I don't think, speaking to the Irish people and seeing that there has been a lot of kind of turbulence within the government since the referendum there on the 8th of March last month, Janie, almost a month ago now, how time flies. But I think that there's been a shake-up in the government. We've seen a lot of members of parties like Fine Gael who are in a coalition government with Fianna Fáil at the moment. They have been leaving the party. Like there are Taoiseach, our Prime Minister, Leo Varadkar, has announced quite shockingly, really, to a lot of people that he will be resigning. I think that, I don't know, it's hard to tell. I think that the government in some ways have realised too late that they have just pushed this policy of letting in unlimited numbers of people, be they asylum seekers or beneficiaries of temporary protection from Ukraine. They've kind of gone too far with it now, where I don't think, even though we see some of them like Sinn Féin backtracking now and saying like, well, we never really supported this, like this isn't on us. I don't think that they believe that the people will actually fall for that, the backtracking. And even we have figures for last year alone, almost 250,000 foreign-born people came to Ireland. So we have a pretty small population. We're a small island. We have about 5 million down here in the south. So for 250,000 people to come into the country at a time when there is a chronic housing crisis, that's obviously irresponsible government policy. The government is obviously being extremely irresponsible with its immigration policies at the current moment.
And it's been described as a widespread discontent, protests. Are these things still going on? Are people still very unhappy with the developments?
They are going on. The protests are still very much going on. And I think if you had asked me the same question, maybe even this time last year, there would have been quite a lot of them. But I think that perhaps the main difference between now and this time last year is that words that the government and the media have used to describe people who are protesting, like calling them racist, calling them Nazis, calling them far right, whatever it is. I think that the effect and the kind of the scariness of those words has started to wear off now. When people see that the people that are being accused of being far right extremists is a mom with a baby in a pushchair, I don't think that, most reasonable people would actually think that person, that kind of demographic is actually some kind of an extremist. So I think because of the kind of wearing off of the fear mongering from the government with the name calling, I think that these things are getting even more widespread. They're everywhere. I think they're almost in every town in Ireland at this point.
Is there an absence of a major anti-immigration party in Ireland? And how do you think that affects the political landscape?
Well, there have been a lot of people, as I said, leaving the major parties. So there's a new party called Independent Ireland, which they have a good few TDs. They have TDs that would have left Fianna Fáil, which is one of the two biggest parties in Ireland. I wouldn't say that they're necessarily anti-immigration. I say that they would favour more kind of, sustainable immigration policies and ones that are in line with the kind of the issues that we're facing now as a country. I think I said to you before that we have like ridiculous hospital waiting lists. We have a shortage of doctors. We have a shortage of teachers. We have a shortage of school places. Obviously, I've said housing. We have all these like really basic issues that the government is failing to address. And yet they're letting thousands and thousands of people come in from other countries who we cannot provide for. Like, it's not even really a pro versus anti-immigration debate anymore. It's literally, we have nothing to offer these people. And like, is it right? Is it just? Is it fair to bring people, like some of whom like are obviously genuinely fleeing persecution? Is it right to invite them in and have them sleep on the street? Is that right? I don't think it's right.
And what is your take on the movement in the other direction? The people with the banners who say don't allow far right to blame refugees for government crises and don't stop attacks on refugees with these hashtags say no to hate, hashtag stand up to the far right. What is your take on these movements?
I mean, from my own kind of perspective of just keeping an eye on things, I almost think that those kind of voices are somewhat like fading a little bit. I don't think that I think they see now that their message isn't really effective because, like, as I said, it's not It's not people saying like we don't like foreigners or we don't want migrants in our country. Like that's ridiculous. I think the Irish people are very welcoming of anybody who wants to come to the country and contribute. Like my own father was from Pakistan. I mean, I don't think that the Irish people are in any way like obviously there's a few like nutbags here and there, but I don't think that Ireland is a racist country. It's not a racist country. And the people who are expressing concern, I do not believe that it's motivated by racism at all. As I said, it's lack of resources. And how can I feed and clothe and provide for somebody when I not cannot feed, clothe and provide for myself? That's the issue. That's the issue that the government and these like refugees welcome crowd are consistently ignoring.
Do you feel that the government are starting to shift towards this type of mentality and this understanding that you're expressing?
Yeah, I certainly see talk. I mean, they're talking about it. They're saying, like Leo Varadkar, the outgoing Taoiseach, recently admitted that the majority of asylum claims coming in are not genuine. And there's been talk of adding, so recently Botswana and Georgia were added to, sorry, was it Georgia or Algeria? I think it was Georgia. But they were added to this list of safe countries. So like obviously if you're coming claiming asylum from a safe country, that casts a lot of doubt as to the validity of your claim. So they're doing things like that. Are they actually stopping the flow? I don't really see that they are. So at this stage, I think a lot of it is still probably talk. Yeah.
Thank you, Fatima Gunning, journalist with Gript Media.